Hey everyone, this is Zephyr, and welcome back to the Baileywiki channel and switching to Foundry Virtual Tabletop with Voxra. In this episode, we're picking up from last session by using Monk's active tile triggers to create some automated traps. We have a ton of fun with this one, and I'm sure that you will too when you incorporate these into your games. Thanks so much for watching, and we hope that you enjoyed this conversation with Vox as much as we did.
All right, so let's work on now an interactive element. Let's pick a scene where you've got something that we want to interact with, or we want players to be able to interact with.
I have this other black cabin here.
Okay, tell us about this scene.
So this is just a little extra place of interest that can pop up from time to time, and I'll actually be bringing people here directly as part of the story. But I noticed that when we imported some of the content and everything, they had this weak floor section here.
Mm-hmm.
And something that I've always been like adamant about to my players, some of my games, is that be careful just going off and doing your own thing from your party, because you never know what you might find or not find or turn on or turn off. And the core group of friends that I play with have never heeded that warning. And so I would like for there to be some actual consequences against that, for say like walking into this weak floor to be able to do something or trigger something. Maybe say, hey,
do you know what do the journal items suggest what's supposed to happen at this weak floor, or do you want to just sort of define it yourself?
So here, if I click on these little tokens and everything, it kind of pops up what's going on. I haven't really read through some of these for all of this age yet. I just kind of noticed this one. There's through the weak floor down here. It gives a section of like what all can happen.
150 pounds or more will break it.
Yeah, and if it fails a dex saving throw, it falls to the bottom of the gorge directly below. And so
taking bludgeoning damage. Okay, great. Yep. So
I'd like
14d6 bludgeoning damage. That's intense.
120 feet.
It's gonna.
I think they'll learn the lesson.
I love it.
Oh my goodness.
Nice. So a DC 15 dexterity save and 14d6 bludgeoning. If they weigh 150 pounds or more, I wonder. Oh boy, should we try to bring weight into this, or should we just say anyone who steps over it?
I would say for now, let's just say whoever steps into it, because adding the weight would be awesome.
We could.
Let's
experiment with it. We'll show you.
Show me how to do it, because I might actually make some other things, like happen.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see what we can tackle then.
Because I may decide that, hey, I don't want to kill anybody. So like if we say, okay, it's weight, but they're able to, make half of the saving throw. Maybe they can hold on for a minute and somebody has to come help them, or else they're going to fall to their death.
You know what's really great about weight is you could have, let's see, I guess you could have lighter players standing on the floor, and as soon as a heavy one walks in, it can actually take them all down with him.
That's exactly what I'm kind of like.
All right, so let's do that.
The entire point of this is that from time to time, I want to kill somebody.
You're training your users for better behavior. Sometimes the kid has to touch the hot stove. Okay, let's try it. Okay, so let's drag.
So excited.
I know, right? So let's drag one of those active tiles out here, because that'll be easy to work with. And I just want to point out, I want to say that that's not part of the artwork. Is that a drawing?
I believe it's part of the drawing. Yeah.
Okay, great. It's good. So that means you can hide that if you right click it.
I think it's already hidden based on that.
Oh,
yeah, based on like how it's a little faded. I think all of those little notes are hidden already.
Okay, perfect. So we're not going to do anything with that. We're going to place an active tile on here and see if we can make it smart enough to make a player fall through it. So go to your tile layer and the little folder button next to it. And then we're going to drag out one of those active tiles that we did before. So go up one level and then go to maps and then active tiles at the top. And let's pick something that looks like a trap. Like there's a trap there with it looks like a bear trap. You can use that one, for example. And go ahead and drag that out. And then you're going to use your Alt button to resize it to maybe, span the part of the floor that you want. Okay. And when you're ready, right-click it and hide it. We don't want to forget to hide that from our players. Okay, that's our basis for this now. Now I want you to double right-click that tile, and we're going to try to give it some intelligence. Go to Triggers. And now how do we want it to behave? Well, any token, and we'll get into some of the weight controls here in a second. When they enter maybe when they stop within the area. How about that? Do another on stop within tile. And everything else, I think we keep the way it is. 100% chance to trigger. That all looks good. Now let's jump over to actions. Let's add an action. And let's start with the basic action that we want to take. Let's harm the user. It's bludgeoning damage, right? How complicated do we want to get into this, Zephyr? Should we do the hurt harm?
Start with the hurt heal.
Okay.
And then I believe then we can specify bludgeoning. I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, so hurt heal, and then we want to go with all of the tokens in the area. So you see those options on the right? If you hover over the one that looks like a group of people, or one of those ones. Okay, the one just to the left of it. That'll harm any tokens that are already standing in that tile space. So go ahead and pick that. The token that's actually going to trigger it will be the heavy token, but it'll harm anyone who's already standing it. And then our value, you can see there's a little help desk or help text underneath. We want, what was it, 14d6? Is that what it was?
Yep.
And you see how you use those brackets? Yeah, 14d6. So use the double bracket and then 14d6 and then double bracket right. Okay.
And before that, we'll need to put a negative sign at the beginning because that's how we're indicating that we're harming somebody.
Good call. So negative and then add a space after it, I believe, right? We'll test it out. That space might be necessary, but we'll test it out. So go ahead and click update. And here you can add a chat message. You can have it be a public role. We're actually gonna create a saving throw for this here in a second. But
Okay.
yeah, I don't see why we can't add a chat message, right?
Yeah.
And then I suppose public role's fine, or we could just make it a blind roll. Doesn't matter.
And this is for the damage, right?
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
So let's click update. We may make some adjustments here in a second. Now update your tile. And let's grab a token, bring a token out onto the scene and test it. I apologize in advance. Voxra is going to get pretty beat up in this session. All right. So already satisfying. Okay. So now let's figure out if we want that to be, now you're probably out of hit points is my guess. If you right click your token.
Yeah, because level 1, so.
Exactly.
It did do it again. So
it did do it again, right? Okay. So now let's see if we can make it a little bit smarter. Let's go to your token or your tile layer again. And let's get back to the config for that trap. Okay, you're in your actions. Now let's add an action. What do we want to do at this point, Zephyr?
The saving throw might make the most sense to add in next here.
Yep, okay. So go ahead and click your actions and scroll all the way down. We're going to go into your logic section. Or maybe it's even further down, actually.
Do we have Monk's active or Monk's token bar enabled right now?
You're right.
We might not have enabled that yet.
Okay, so now you should be able to go back to your tile layer and interact with the tile again. So go to Triggers, Actions, Add, And now go all the way to the bottom, and we're going to look for one that got introduced because we activated that. And that's going to be request a roll, the very bottom there. And we want the triggering token to make this. Well, actually, they all should be making the roll. Anyone who's been affected. So that's all current tokens. So we want to leave that alone. What this will do is it'll say any tokens affected by the last action should be affected by this, right? I think if we're getting this right. Now, the request that we want to make is going to be a dex save, I think. So instead of initiative, look for dexterity. And we want saving throw. Was the DC 14?
I think it was 15.
15?
However cruel you want to be to your players as you plummet them off a cliff.
Right.
15.
15 dex. So you see you have a field for the DC. Oh, easy going. Flavor text. So this is where,
merciful.
You can say, something like the floor breaks. We can see what the flavor text ends up looking like, but the floor breaks and you fall through. Love it. Now, this will be a public roll. And now the next part is you can actually have your players roll for it themselves, or you can bypass that and just make them automatically take the damage and like automatically roll and then either fail or save. So if you do the bypass dialogue, that will automatically just bypass everything, and then auto roll will have them automatically roll it. We won't go into details of why you wouldn't do one or the other. We'll leave both of these checked for now just to show it kind of automating all the way through. And let's see, if they fail their save, do they not take any damage? Is that the idea?
Yeah, it's like you avoid falling down, I think.
Okay. Yep, they fall to the bottom. Okay, great. So go ahead and go back to our thing here. Continue with, select that all tokens, tokens that fail. So anyone who fails their save is going to take the damage. And continue if, click that, instead of always, say any failed. So that way, if any failed, I think that's how it works. We'll try it. We'll test it out. Go and click update. And now we want this dex save to happen before the harm happens. So we want to reorder those. So just drag the one on top of the other. Okay, great. Now click update tile.
One other thing before we get testing on it is we'll want to open that back up. And right now we have hurting all tokens within the tile. So that's going to affect anyone regardless of whether they actually failed, I think.
Yes.
So I think we need to make sure that's current tokens.
Yep. So pick the little thing to the far right that looks like a swirl. Yeah. Click that. Current token. See how it changed it to current tokens? What that's saying is, hey, Monk's Active Tiles, whatever's currently in your process, which we said before is anyone who failed that throw, anyone who's currently in your process, we want you to apply this damage to them. All right.
And it updates that loop basically for every player individually.
Right. So and we're going to drag some other tokens out to test that in a second, but let's just test with Voxra here.
That'll be his elevation rather than.
That's its elevation, isn't it?
There you go.
It's the bottom is the health.
And you might want to change his elevation back to 0. Okay.
Oh, it's so good.
There's your save. Now go to your chat in the far right. And let's see what happens. So you got a 20 in your dexterity save, so you didn't take the damage. So you could keep walking over it and see if you can try to fail that. If you wanted to actually test that. Or you can also just automatically set the DC really, really high so that you like auto fail. So you're doing. See, you're too easy on your players, Box. I mean, I'm disappointed. You talk a big game. Where's our DC 25s? So yeah, go into your edit for that top one and change your DC to like 30. Hey, don't you dare. Unbelievable.
I love it.
Like I'm already dead. That's okay. So look, I failed my save.
Phenomenal.
Were you in the square also? Did we both get
He was just outside of it.
Oh, he
I
was.
believe
Okay.
I was outside of it.
We'll have to make a couple tweaks. I believe so the way we have it set up right now is that the dexterity saving throw is going to be triggered for the current tokens, which is going to be whoever's a part of like the triggering action. So that sets us up for whenever we're doing filtering before that. But we might want to change the dexterity saving throw prompt to that be all tokens within the tile. And then we could have, if both tokens were on the tile when someone walked in, then both of them would make the save and potentially both take the damage.
Okay. So let's make that. Yep. And this will be everyone in the tile. Yeah.
Yep. So let me update that. And then we'll need to update the tile before we move our character in there. Otherwise it won't be ready to go. Great. Now when we move in.
Okay, so let's see what happened in the chat. So we see that Bailey, so we've got two things. We've got, correct me if I'm wrong, let's see.
I'm not seeing Vox's save, so let's double check the tile one more time. Tokens within tile. Oh, this might be a little bit of, let's go over our setup really fast. Okay, on stop within tile. Okay.
Wasn't it like one of the triggers like
so
when you enter or stopping?
Yeah, what might be happening actually, and this is kind of an interesting idiosyncrasy that happens occasionally, is when affecting everyone who's on a tile, sometimes the triggering action occurs before it fully registers that your token is on the tile. And so sometimes it might execute that tokens within tile aspect too early to catch everyone who should be involved. So let me think. There's a few different ways you can handle it. We can have it wait just a little bit and delay the actions.
Let's try that.
Yeah, it might be worth trying here.
You want to add the wait before the dexterity throw?
Yeah, so if we go ahead and hit add, and then down in our, I believe it's our logic section, we've got delay actions. Let's go ahead and just, it doesn't need to be very long. It could be like half a second or 1 second, totally fine.
It says seconds here, so I can't do.
Yep.
I think you can use fractions of a second, like 0.5, for example.
Yeah. And then now let's update our tile. And let's try that again. Great. Okay, so that was what was going on. Was basically it was triggering too early, right? So it didn't fully register that both tokens were on the tile. There's a few other ways you can kind of handle that workflow, but that's probably the simplest way, is just have a real short delay between when at the beginning of your actions, so that it makes sure it collects everything.
So here you've got, because we raised the DC to 30, they both failed, and they both took their own respective 14d6 damage. And now you would, as a GM, you just have them roll to like climb out of the chasm that they fell into, right?
Right.
Now,
And
what
so-
you can do if you want to explain what happened is we can add a notification to this. So if you go to your tiles layer and click back into our smart tile here and add an action. And from your drop down, go down to notification. Is it notification? It's in the...
So we've got chat message, and I believe it might be
up
show
above.
notification, or
Yeah, it could be it. Oh, chat. No, it's not chat message.
send notification.
Yeah, there it is. Got it.
You can also use, there's a few different options you can have.
So you can say, you've been warned, or you fell into a chasm, or something like that. Love it. And I love that you spelled burritos wrong. That's even better. Okay, type. That'll just say whether it shows up in blue, yellow, or red. You can go ahead and do like a error, is it error that comes up?
I believe error is red.
Yeah. And then you can show it to just the token owner who fell in if you want to let them wallow in their misery in without public scrutiny. Okay, so now jump back into it. Right? So just little helpful things that you may want to use to help them realize like what happened. You can even play like the sound of, things crumbling and shattering around them. In fact, just in our module, there's some things for collapsing sound effects. But we won't try to get into that. The last thing I want to show you is how to check for an attribute, in this case, weight. So let's make sure that Baileywiki is nice and lithe and lean and doesn't break the 150-pound mark. So if you open up his, if you double left click, you can open up his thing. There you go. And we want to look for weight. Where would we have weight, Zephyr?
Check the biography. This is going to vary from system to system too.
Yeah, try the biography.
On whether there's actually appearance. Well, because there's not normally a regular just weight line. However, if you go to inventory and you have you can see at the bottom, there's 0 to 150, which is your encumbrance. So weight is going to vary from system to system as to whether there's a clear line for it. I don't believe the 5e system, by default at any rate, actually has a specific line for how much someone weighs. Here's how we could really get to the bottom of it. Throw some item in there, or change the value of new loot into something. Go to edit, the little pencil thing there, and just put some kind of weight on that for right now.
Like 500. There you go.
That'll work.
All right,
and go ahead and close that. Will
it pick up on that though? Okay, it does set encumbrance.
Okay.
So what we want to do is look for that value.
Yeah. So this is going to be perhaps a little over detailed for some folks, but this is a worthwhile exercise for showing you how to find these different things. Go ahead and hit F12. And so this has brought up the console. Obviously, you're familiar with things like the APIs and everything, so this probably is not too crazy to you. But if you go to the console tab up next to the elements, then we can see some different information about Foundry. If you clear it, then we can have a cleaner workspace here for us. It's that circle with the line through it. Beautiful. And now I want you to type canvas. Sorry, not in the filter.
See that little caret down below? Yeah, there.
Yeah. Now canvas and then dot tokens and then underscore controlled. Or sorry, tokens dot underscore controlled. Apologies. Beautiful. And you see it's kind of autofilling that you've got something there. And once you hit enter, you'll be able to expand that out. So what this is doing is you have one token selected, which is the Baileywiki token. And this is how you can expand out to find different data. So expand that top arrow there. And then we've got a whole lot of information here. What we want to do is click on the document arrow. It's like fourth arrow from the top. And so that's an actor and everything. If you expand out the actor, And then we can go into, oh shoot, sorry, where is it? Yeah, maybe it isn't the data one. Beautiful. All right, so within data, then we have a lot of different things. So click on data or expand out data, and we have all kinds of different things. And I believe what we're looking for is in details. Maybe this actually doesn't show up. So this is awkward if I just wasted all that time. Because I'm looking at Krogard's thing and there's details.weight. So I'm like, I know that's in
There's
here.
There's encumbrance right there. Got it. No, you just had it.
Aha, encumbrance. Beautiful. All right.
So value. So now I think he needs to just right click value, right? Will that copy the property path?
Yeah. Yeah, you should be able to do that and then kind of shrink that down. Or like you don't need as many of the leading modifiers on that.
Yeah. So you copy the property path. Now this is getting into some technical stuff, right?
But it really is.
We'll see how we do. Okay, so now go back to your tile layer and get back to our smart tile. And go to create a new action. Okay, now go scroll all the way to the bottom. And we want to, scroll up just a bit, just above the logic section. We want to filter by attributes. And we're going to take the current token that just triggered the trap. And the attribute we're going to look for, go ahead and paste what you copied into here. And now we want to whittle this thing down. This is where we're going to get over my ski tips.
Yep.
Do you know what to put here?
Yeah, we only need, so we can see there's 2 dot datas. You can get rid of the first dot data and everything in front of it. Yes. And then delete that first dot in front of everything. And then now for the value, you're just going to do something like greater than or equal to 150.
So greater than space 150, right?
Yeah. Yeah, greater than or equal to space 150.
That's fine. Right. They can be at 150 and not break it.
Yeah.
Okay, so drag that to the top. And actually, no, that should still work, right? Dragging it to the very first.
Yeah, and actually sometimes depending upon how you're filtering stuff, sometimes it actually gives the tile enough time to catch up and catch everything. So we might find that the weight is actually unnecessary, particularly if you're doing additional actions such as playing sounds before you ask for the throw.
Right.
But it's safe to leave that in just as an extra stopgap.
Okay, so now we're looking to see if a token exceeds the 150 encumbrance. But then we need to say, okay, if we found, we need to actually say, if we found one, right? Zephyr, we need the check.
Yep. So we'll go ahead and do, you can go ahead and close that and hit add. And then down in our logic, expand out the drop down. And then down in the logic section, there is the check entity. Oh, sorry. Above that, filters, my bad. There is the check entity count. And then basically, when we add this in, this is just saying, oh, if nothing fits these parameters, then we're just going to leave it. So go ahead and hit update. And move that then directly above our weight. Beautiful. And now update the tile. So basically, it's just saying if we don't have any current tokens, we're just going to stop what we're doing. Because we do have things, have actions later that don't care whether we have a current token or not.
Okay, so let's put...
So in theory, Vox is weight is 0 because he's not encumbered.
Mm-hmm.
Should not trigger.
Oh, yeah. That's right. Is it just Bailey that's got the encumbrance? Yeah, that's right. Okay, so now put Vox in the square, and he's not triggering it. That's the behavior we want. Let's see if Bailey does.
Okay. That means I probably told you the wrong thing to put into the data there. So let's open up our tile again. And then edit that first one with the data.attributes. And then do actor.data or actor dot in front of it.
Actor.data.attributes.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't need the underscore in front of actor, don't believe. But we'll see. This is really hard when I'm not able to like rapid fire test 50 different things in like 30 seconds. Oh, geez.
Of course, we had to pick the hard one, encumbrance.
Yeah, we did. So look in. All right. I'm going to pull up some examples here because there's.
Are you sure we have the logic right with the greater than 0? Can I just look at that again?
Yeah, sure.
The check entity count. Just open that up real quick. Check. Okay, current tokens if greater than 0.
Yep. So that part's correct because you never have to actually do anything on the check entity count because you're just trying to make sure, like,
if none exists, then
you're just trying to see, like, oh, did anything meet the criteria of the filters?
Yeah. You can close that. Let's see. I know that that's wrong. We don't need all of that stuff in there. What about just actor.data? Because right now it's actor.data.data. Does that matter?
Yeah, try actor.data and try removing the underscore in front of it, actually. Okay. Way up.
Nothing like doing it in real time.
Yep. You know, actually try, this is funny. Try removing try putting in just the attributes.encumbrance.value. Hey.
Okay, so let's analyze what just happened. Let's test it one more time. Let's just drag Voxra in. Make sure.
Happening to both of them.
That's great. Okay, so we detected that somebody too heavy entered this square, and that triggered saving throws for everyone inside of the square. By the way, Baileywiki doesn't have a very good vision assigned. That's why you can't see anything. We can fix that here. Go to vision and give them a dim vision radius of 60 feet or something. Okay, so let's test it the other direction. Leave Bailey there and have Voxra come in and out, and that should not set it off at all. So using this method, we used a really complicated one with encumbrance, but using this method, you can check for their passive perception. So they could enter an area and you could say anyone with a passive perception above 15, I want to show an alert. Like you detect, something in the corner, and you could have that alert even cause an item to appear, right? To go from a hidden to an unhidden state.
Yeah, that's exactly something else I wanted to do, was be able to like hide things to let them trigger little stories to get to areas like this at some time.
Yeah, you could have also, the way that we had you check for make a dexterity roll is you could have had them make a perception check, an ability check for perception that
just by changing the rules or the logic.
Exactly. just by using the actions you already created, you could just go and edit them and like, change things to different types of checks. So you saw there's a whole list of actions available. It's overwhelming how much you can actually automate here, but this is just one simple example, and then we made it really complicated.
Yeah. I guess my only question would be like what I did while we were talking about the being able to change for like perception checks and everything was I split the weight between the two.
Yeah.
Does it only examine each individual against the rules?
Yeah, so this is a really complex case to be trying to check for an actual physical weight value, right? You might need to use something like a macro in order to be able to actually store and combine those. That said, a pretty simple way you could do this actually is you could, instead of checking for weight, check how many people are on the tile, so that if one person's on the tile, no problem. As soon as we have a second one, then we're going down. And that doesn't require nearly as much looking through stuff. It's very easy to set up, and that really gets you off to the races.
And that's where I was kind of going with that. So what we could do is we could check entity count for like if token count is greater than 2.
Actually, we can just delete those top 2, right, Zephyr, and make it so that the original trigger just goes off when there's 2 standing in the tile. Can't we do that?
Level double check the setup, because I think that they actually migrated that into using check entity count instead of there being a setup option for it.
Okay, so go open that again, go to setup tab on the left, and see minimum required to trigger. Can't we set that to 2?
Yep. Yeah, so we can just have 2.
And then, but you're going to want to change some of your actions, so you can delete that one, those top 2, in fact. Go ahead and leave your wait time in there. And now let's move a player out and back in and see if it triggers.
Yeah, so I think what's happening is it's meaning that like you have to have 2 people move in at the same time with how we have it set up on our setup. So let's go back into the tile one more time. And then go to setup and remove that min required to trigger. We'll make that 0 again. And go to actions. And add in a check entity count again. Also, if you start typing, it'll jump down to what you're at. So if you just start typing check, it's not going to display in the actions, but while you have the oh right, it's only the first letter, my bad. So check entity count, right? And then instead of current tokens, switch that one to tokens and use tokens within triggering tile. And now instead of greater than 0, we're going to do greater than 1. And then update, and then put that up directly below our weight, because that same issue we were having before where it might not actually read who all's within the tile, we would have again with this check entity count. And update the tile.
We can also play with lowering that wait time just to make it just a little bit tighter.
Yeah.
But let's go ahead and test it and see if this works. Do like 0.5. Or yeah, 0.1. See if that's enough. Hey.
Yeah, so now let's have Vox stay off the tile.
Yeah.
And have Bailey leave and come back, and we'll see if that still triggers. So now, as long as Bailey's on it, you can move around on the tile all he wants. But as soon as Vox also steps on the tile, then you have an issue. And
brilliant.
we can get...
That's so much easier than I think,
Yeah. Oh yeah, going into the console.
Because in a lot of cases, I don't even run encumbrance in the campaign because I don't want to micromanage it that much.
Yeah, and you'd have to add that value to everybody's cards. It's just not worth.
Well, and then they're not adding what they buy from the shops, and then they're like, "I bought a potion back at the shop, but I didn't put it in my inventory." It's like, well, you just left it on the counter. Then sorry about your luck.
Nice.
Yeah. I was looking up on Crowguard's wiki, which I'll put a card up or we'll have it in the description. And there is a details.weight attribute, but I'm not sure where we access that on our sheet. And if I'm not sure where we access that on our sheet, I would imagine that's also left blank plenty of times.
Yeah.
So it's hard to work off of that.
Yeah.
It's also gives us a lot of options because, you know, we can have different behavior for if there's only one character on the tile. So we could have maybe the floor creaks when the first person's on it by themselves.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna, like ask next was like how it's obvious that in terms of this, it's basically just going down this as logic, right? This, then this, then this, then this, then this. But is it actually scanning this entire thing like read ahead to be able to say like, can I add another action in here? It's like, wait 1 second, check if the ending county is true. If it's greater than 0, start playing this sound, or add another action or a trigger that says, hey, I want this to happen when the current token passes in. So I can say like if
so go to your check entity count and go to the edit, go into edit that. So you see where if none exists, then it just stops. Well, if none exists, you could have it jump ahead to another, what's called a landing. And at that landing, you could just have it play a creaking sound. Does that make sense? So if you,
landing being the bold text,
I'll show you. So click close here for a second and add a new action. And go to your drop down and go down to, it might be in logic, landing. Landing is just like a bookmark in the steps where you can jump ahead to it. And let's call this floor creak or something. Floor _ creak or whatever you'll remember. Okay. And click update. And now add, oh yeah, there you go. And then go to floor creak.
Well, it wouldn't let me I can just type it in like.
Yeah. And then at the, then click add again. We don't really have a floor creaking noise, do we, Zephyr?
I think we might have something that kind of works.
Oh yeah, that's right. There's a wood creak. So go ahead and play sound.
Oh, it might be something that might not be something perfect, but something close.
Yep. And go into the sound files, modules, towns, sounds, and look up creak or wood. Wood creak. Let's see.
I think that's like creaking in the belly of a ship. The door creak.
Yeah, do the door creak.
Or steps creak, actually. Steps creak would probably be good.
You sure? I think it's the door.
Either one. We'll find out.
Anyway, pick it. All right. We'll play for everyone, let's say, and we'll leave it all the way it is.
One other note before we update real quick. If you edit the landing again, notice there's a stop when reached in code. So if we don't want this floor creak to play when we're having the trap itself go off up above, then we can tick this box, which basically means if we do have more than one person on the tile, then it's going to stop before we actually play that sound.
Perfect.
Oh, I gotcha. So if it executes this logic, it doesn't jump to this and do this.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Exactly.
So go ahead and tick it on. You'll want that on the stop in code and update tile. And now pull both of your players off of the tile. And now have just one of them walk in, and let's see if we hear the creaking sound. There you go. So that should be a warning to everyone. Wait, what's that creaking sound?
Yeah.
And now have your other player walk on it, get them both on there, and it should.
Oh, so good.
Love it. So, you can really overdo automation, but you create one, and you've said this before, you create one really deliberate interaction like this, and that is so much fun for players. So this is a perfect example of how it might be worth investing the time to create this trap. And there's ways to also make this trap reusable in the future. You can literally just cut and paste into another scene. You can make prefabs out of it. We won't go into that, but sometimes when you come up with a really good interaction, you don't want to rebuild that again. And it's good to know how to reuse these. We'll cover that sometime in the future, or you guys can use any of our tutorials on token attacher or making prefabs to see how to do that sort of advanced level stuff. But that's it. That's a pretty effective trap. I'm pretty proud of us for doing that in real time.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, the sky is the limit. It's just like, okay, now it's time for me to go through and play with some things and really kind of make these maps really interactive.
Yeah. And we did it with no code, except for when we detoured into the console for the really hard stuff.
It's not normally that hard, I promise.
Yeah, it's usually pretty simple. So we didn't get to combat today. We'll get to that one probably in the next one, combat automation. But let's just show really quick how to check and see what your players see, so that you can really test a map before you unleash it on your players. So what you want to do is you want to get your invitation, your player invitation. You want to grab that link.
You'll also want to make sure that you have a player set up that actually has player permissions too.
Oh, okay. Don't have that. So I can do that real quick.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Cool. What did you give to Bailey and Zephyr?
Yeah. Go to your user management.
It's a
same tab. Just up a couple notches. Beautiful. Yeah. So we have game master and assistant GM. So make, Bailewiki's already got the ownership of that one token. So let's make him a player and we'll be able to see. I normally like to have like a testing player, but for quick and dirty here, this should work. So we've got Black Cabin activated and everything. So we'll use that invite link that Bailey had us grab already.
So what you want to do is open a browser. And I often do it in incognito mode, so I don't have any logins or anything. And I'm going to pop that invite into that browser. It's going to be a separate window.
And a note about the incognito window trick. It's not strictly necessary since you're running off your local machine, but if you were using a server or something like that, then running in an incognito window allows you to have basically two accounts logged in at once. So that allows you to still have the GM in there because there's a lot of interactions that require a GM to be logged in while being logged in as a player. So that's a really helpful trick, especially to those who aren't on self-hosted. It looks like we don't have ownership assigned for Baileywiki. So if we go back to our original Foundry window, then we can actually make sure that Bailey owns the character. So go into your actors tab or directory there on the right. And right click on Baileywiki. And then go to configure permissions. And we'll really have to get into all the details of what permissions mean in a future episode. But we're going to go ahead and give Baileywiki the owner permission and save the changes. So now when we go back to our previous window, or our testing window, so to speak, we now own the token, so now we have vision here.
So now you can see Bailey is that smaller window, can't see the drawings. If you had something else hidden, like tokens hidden, they couldn't see anything there.
I am curious. Let's go ahead and hit on your tools on the left for Baileywiki. There's the ribbon that is journal pins. Okay, so we can see that Baileywiki actually can see that main room journal pin. And so the reason being is that right now all of our players have permission to view these different journal entries. So if you want to hide that one, so it's BO4 main room, go back to your GM control and under the journal entries tool, and if we just go find BO4, we could even search for it up there to make this easier for us. And then if we right click that and configure the permissions for that, here you can see the default up at the top is all players is observer. So if players have observer permissions, they're going to be able to see those and like look at the different notes and everything. So we might want to change that to none.
By the way, we have a nice module that just came out that lets you change all these permissions, I think, all at once.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
there's a lot of great ways to do that, and you can also do some changes via folders and everything, but we can definitely dive into that in the future. I just want to make you aware of this part now.
Oh, I saw it. You guys didn't see it, but I was watching it on the other screen. It disappeared as soon as I hit
Yeah,
save.
there you go.
Perfect.
Okay. So now you can run this map as a player and really see what it feels like. You can even, if there were teleports, you could run over the teleports and see, what's working. And you can make some adjustments as the GM. But opening up this separate browser in an incognito mode, there you go. There's the creek. Now, Bailey can't move that character, but if you as the GM went to your other window and moved him in, you could trigger it.
Oh, I got way too many ideas now.
You can have players come in and snuff out torches or turn them on. You can have them.
Oh, I hadn't even thought of that.
Yeah, you can have them walk up to a window and smash it and be able to walk in the window. You can have them walk up to an item and it starts glowing if they have an alignment of lawful good. I mean, the sky's the limit as far as what you can make happen.
Some of the things that I'm gonna try between this session and the next session is that the passive perception thing is something I'm gonna try in. And I think what I'll try to do is, like, if they have a passive perception, I'm gonna have something that they can hover over and it highlights, and then they can click on to open a door or something.
Now, we've made a bunch of interactions that use mechanics like that inside of the Towns module. You can look up interactions that we've already made prefabs out of.
Awesome.
You can play around with those. You need token attacher. You need to understand how to use that module. You have to basically unattach all the attachments once you drag it on, but it essentially gives you all the tiles already pre-configured to do a lot of the things that you want to do. So you might also want to play with those and see if you got some stuff that we out of the box made work.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's time for me to start kind of slowly going through some of these scenes and everything and getting them set up.
Perfect.
So,
well, hey guys, I think we accomplished a lot today. Next time, I think is a good time to really lean into the automation stuff, even some animations. We'll kind of show like fully what's possible, and then we'll kind of show players and GMs how to approach that a little bit more slowly. But other than that, I think this is pretty good.
Yeah, this is so much fun, and this is a blast. Being able to do all of these things is just going to make it so much more fun for my players. So
yeah, your reaction to the active tile setup we have with the weak floor is just a really great example of how it feels to be DMing in Foundry all the time, finding those cool interactions you can create. It's really rewarding.
Yeah.
Just to touch on some of the comments I've heard, guys, that we'll cover next time. People are interested in how to set up actors and items for the first time. There's some complexity with those screens that's probably worth spending some time on. Maybe we'll even just do a separate tutorial on those, just so people understand them. Also, somebody made the comment when we showed D&D Beyond as a content import system. A lot of people are using the VTTA module, which is free, doesn't require a subscription. I haven't used it yet, but the VTTA module is something that was mentioned in the comments that you guys may want to check out if you're trying to import content there. And then also we had a request to cover playlists, things like ambient music, sound. It's such an immersive part of these games, sound. So We'll probably want to cover that off as its own, at least as part of its own episode too.
And I've had some requests from some of my friends to start doing another Tomb of Annihilation thing. I may have mentioned it before. So if we wanted to try to, I'll work on getting that content available for me. And if we wanted to do a VTTA thing, I'm happy to learn that one.
Test that one too. Perfect. And then I think ultimately I'd like to build up to a live game once you feel like you have your players set up. And then I have some other ideas. I have some guests that I may want to bring in here in some of these episodes, some GMs that are already pretty proficient at Foundry that also might be, fun to bring on, especially when we get closer to the live game section. Sound good?
Absolutely. I'm loving it.
All right, guys. Well, until the next episode.
Have a good one.
Thanks, everybody.